Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back or welcome to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I'm your host, Jessie Brown, and I am very, very excited and honored to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 171. If you missed my last episode, number 170, I chatted with you guys all about improving your relationship with therapy. I know it's probably not the most sexiest of titles or subjects, but I do think that it is important. And the whole reason that I did that episode is because I know therapy has a lot of negative condensations around it, right? And there can be a lot of thoughts and feelings and emotions that come up with the word therapy. And so I just can't stress enough the importance of recognizing what your relationship is with therapy and with getting help. And hopefully that episode, if you haven't checked it out yet, after you do so, will just maybe encourage you to be curious about what that journey could be like for you. On the topic of not so sexy titles, today we're going to be talking about a subject that not everybody loves, but I think is really, really important. And I want to scratch the word think. I know is really important, and I know has changed my life. And so today we're going to be talking about the importance of vulnerability in your relationships. When I say relationships, I do truly believe this is across the board in all of our relationships. My context in which came up for me when writing this was in intimate relationships, but now in real time, upon reading this, I think that this is actually, I keep saying think. I really want to work on using that word when it's actually something I do believe. I believe that this is something that is applicable to all of our relationships. When we think about our relationships, for this moment specifically, let's think of intimate ones. We've likely all gotten into some kind of an argument or a disagreement with a partner, either present or in the past, that's left you feeling or made you feel frustrated, right? And it often turns into an escalation and defensiveness. I want you to think of an example in your life where maybe this has happened for you. I can think of numerous examples in my past where this has happened, where something that could have, in hindsight, been a very small just conversation then escalated into these massive arguments and fights that would prolong for hours, days, weeks sometimes. And in looking back, obviously there are a lot of reasons for this and a lot of things beneath the surface and not things that I'm going to get into. But one of the things that was definitely missing in those conversations, in those arguments, was the topic and the importance of vulnerability. I wrote down as I was reflecting, what is the biggest difference between my past relationship, so my current relationship that I'm in now? What is different? Because there is evident differences. I feel different in how I show up. I feel different in how we handle situations and how we communicate. And I landed on three main differences reflecting on my past relationships and my relationship that I'm in now. And those three things are, the first one is self-awareness. I wish that I could just give you guys the secret formula to growing self-awareness, but unfortunately, it takes a lot of time and effort. And I've done numerous episodes on here about how to grow and expand and work on your self-awareness, because it's one of those things in life that until we work on that, everything inevitably is going to continue to perpetuate in the same cycles. Because if we're not aware of who we are, what our triggers are, what our experiences are, how they connect with each other, what our response is to certain things, what our relationship is with certain things, inevitably the same things are going to continue to happen. And so I told myself, before I get into another relationship, aka the one I'm in now, I knew that I wanted to work very consciously and strong on my relationship with myself, of self-love, of self-acceptance, of self-awareness, knowing what my triggers are so I can express them, knowing the things that bother me, knowing the things that tip me over, knowing the things that fill me up. Because if we don't know those things about ourselves, often what happens is we think it's our partner's job to fill those missing pieces for us. We put this subconscious pressure on them to read our mind and to fill these buckets for us that we haven't even established for ourselves or don't know how to do so for ourselves. And I'm not saying we will ever have it all figured out, but I think that that is a huge reason why I kept reiterating the same cycles in the past, is because there were parts of me that I kept subconsciously thinking were my partner's responsibility to tend to fill, to make me feel, right? It's your responsibility to make me feel this way. So many of us do that without recognizing in hindsight how detrimental that is. And so the first difference that I wrote down is self-awareness. And now, you guys, I'm not going to sit here and pretend or say or claim that my relationship now is perfect and it's spotless and there's no issues and there's no anything. But in hindsight, in comparison to the past, it's a 99-to-1 ratio. But I want you guys to know that that took a lot of time and effort on both of our behalves, because he is also someone, and I'm so grateful for this, that takes time to practice self-awareness and to get to know himself and get to know his triggers and to reflect. Every single day, we both still reflect. I have my journal right here that I wrote in this morning. Every single day is time invested into myself, into getting to know myself. And that took a lot of time and practice, and I had to seek professional help for that, because for a while going within felt really icky and really weird. But the only way that I truly believe we can have healthy relationships is when we have a healthier relationship with ourselves. I know that to be true. The second thing I wrote down is emotional intelligence / self-regulation. Self-regulation is one of those things that is a continuous journey, but I think the only way to improve that is to begin to recognize and tune into what your triggers are, how you respond to them when you are triggered, and how you uniquely can learn to calm yourself down. Self-regulation was something that I did not have in hindsight looking back. Like, I even think of high school me, I was like a loose cannon. Now, mind you, I've never been someone that really leaned into anger, but self-regulation can really start to break down the foundation of a relationship when you are leaking parts of you negatively onto your partner. And so if your partner is a self-regulated person and you are not, that person's going to have to constantly overcorrect for you. And I've been in relationships where I was more so on the side of having regulation and my partner did not. And it constantly felt like talking to a wall, because you'd be talking to someone who is triggered all the time and had no ability to self-regulate. And so this has to come from both sides. Both partners have to be willing to work on this for themselves. We often get into these relationships, as I was saying, with all these triggers and all this pain and this lack thereof of emotional regulation and awareness. And then what we do is we butt heads, right? Everything is our partner's fault. Everything is a projection onto them. And that's why I wanted to talk about the importance of vulnerability in your relationships, because vulnerability allows us that permission to lean into being uncomfortable together, which I'm going to get into some really strong, amazing pros of bringing vulnerability into your relationship. I keep saying relationships across the board. Because I do truly believe that that is the only way that we can have healthy relationships. I really don't foresee a possible way of having a magnificent, intimate relationship if you're not leaning into vulnerability. I just don't see how it's possible. I've witnessed many relationships in my life, very close people to my heart or just clients. And whenever I can see gaps or breakdowns in the relationship, it's because vulnerability isn't present. Self-accountability isn't present. Emotional regulation isn't present. And so the last thing that I wrote down that I just shared with you guys of the difference of my past relationships and present is vulnerability. Right off the get-go, I can remember our first date of things we shared with each other that were very vulnerable in hindsight. But I think it just showed us right off the hop, like, I can trust this person. I can open up to this person. I can be myself with this person, which isn't that what we're all trying to feel? And oftentimes it takes one partner to lead the other one with vulnerability, especially if it's never been something that you've been safe to feel in the past. And typically one partner has a better relationship with it than the other. And so sometimes we have to lead by example and support our partner with this. But I would almost bet that if the same arguments and the same structure of conflict continues to happen over and over again in your relationship, and you're at the point where you're like, okay, I don't know if I can do this anymore, I encourage you to ask yourself 0 to 10, how much vulnerability is showing up? How much are you investing? How much is your partner investing? If it's next to nothing, that makes sense. Because without vulnerability, we can't express our full truth. We're not fully seen. Our heart isn't fully open. And so I Googled the state of vulnerability, and there's multiple different definitions of this. But the first one that I pulled up, I think really largely hits the nail on the head. And so it said the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed. So obviously this is a very broad definition. But the key words that stuck out to me were exposed to the possibility of being attacked. Because that's often what we think of when we think of being vulnerable. Again, sorry for anyone watching video, my nose is always so itchy because there's little kitty hairs on my microphone. So if you see me wiping my nose 500 times on video, I am so sorry. But the words that stuck out to me were exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed. What does that mean? If you feel like you sharing your authentic truth, oh my gosh, my nose. You sharing your authentic truth is in some way, shape, or form going to lead to you being more hurt, will likely put up these defensive protectors. Our relationship with vulnerability, I truly believe, comes from our childhood and how safe we felt to express our needs, our desires, our thoughts, our feelings. If you never had a safe place or way to express your needs and desires and wants, your relationship with vulnerability is likely a little bit harder because of that definition. If there's a possibility of, okay, if I share my hard truth with you and you are not receptive to it, that's gonna hurt me. And so I'd rather just protect myself and put up these walls. And so I think it's really important that we also make sure the people we're being vulnerable with have the capacity and are going to be emotionally mature enough and aware enough to be able to hold that space for you. I'm not saying that all the blame is on my past partners of having lack thereof capacity to do this, but I know that I'm able to be more vulnerable now with my partner because he's open to hold space. He's open to listen and to accept when I'm speaking and to really hear what I'm saying and to validate it. But in the past, me leaning into vulnerability was next to impossible because that person would always take it like a threat, like an attack. And again, none of this is me claiming that I was perfect in past relationships because I know that there was times that I was probably doing the exact same thing. But I think in hindsight, it's just recognizing the differences. And so I know that being vulnerable is one of the scariest, most ickiest things that we can do. But it is also one of the most beautiful, crucial, needed things in life. Whenever someone's vulnerable, there's a part of us that just feels permission to take a deep breath. We feel permission to let our wall down. And that is kind of what I mean when I say the leading by example, is because when we witness somebody else being vulnerable, there's a part of us that's like, oh, I want to do that. And so the importance of vulnerability in your relationship. I wrote down some things that I truly believe are huge pros to being vulnerable. And the first one is that it allows you to understand your partner on a deeper level. When you're able to have vulnerable conversations and express your truth and open up and truly listen when your partner is talking and sharing, it allows you to form a deeper connection with each other. It's really hard to build a connection with someone when their walls are up. That trust isn't being built. It also feels really good when someone's being vulnerable with you because it shows that they care about you, shows that they trust you in some way. And so it's our responsibility when someone is opening up in that way to be receptive of it, to be respectful, to be loving, to be caring. If someone is trying to open up to you, so many times I'll see that and someone's just not receptive to it. That shuts that person down. It's really important on both sides of vulnerability to be aware of how you're responding. But I do genuinely believe with all of my heart that vulnerability allows us to understand our partner at a deeper level. I think of times where triggers come to surface. The thing is, for example, my partner's been in my life for 4.5 months. And so there's things about his life that I don't know and I'm not aware of. And so he could get triggered about something or feel a certain way about something or act a certain way. I don't know the reason beneath that. I don't know the why beneath that. All I know is the last 4.5 months. And so without leaning into vulnerability and getting to know where those things come from, often what happens is we either put the blame on ourselves or we don't have compassion. I've shared with him multiple times what some of my triggers are. He doesn't know past incidences that have caused those triggers, but by me being vulnerable and leaning in and sharing those with him, it allows him to then have the awareness of, okay, I know when Jessie's feeling this way, this is probably what she needs. What if your partner's having a hard time supporting you because you're not expressing to them vulnerably what you need? A layer deeper to that, what if you don't know what you need because you haven't taken the time to get to know it for yourself? This again comes right back to my very first point. Relationships will crumble when our self-awareness is low. We see this time and time and time again because we have no other choice but to attack each other if we don't know for ourselves where that comes from within. But this is one of the most beautiful things about vulnerability is it allows us to build that deeper connection with each other in a safe way because you're sharing things deeply about yourself with the person that you care about so that they can work with you. Most partners that love you and care about you deeply will want to be able to do the things to support you. And they'll be receptive to that. And if you're not in a relationship where you feel that, I definitely encourage you to maybe just hold that truth for yourself. Because it's likely not going to be sustainable and there's likely always going to be a part of you that feels hurt, that feels less than. And I want you to know how worthy you are of being with somebody that is able to hold that space for you. And vice versa, maybe this is a self-awareness moment for you to be like, I haven't really been showing up as the best partner in my relationship, and maybe I need to do some things to shift that. Know that it's never too late to start this journey. I remember randomly deciding I need to open my heart a little bit more. I need to let some of my walls down. I know that I can be stubborn sometimes, and so I need to work on that. It's never too late to work on things about yourself. If you've told yourself a story or an identity that I am just the type of person that's this, you're going to stay like that forever. It's never too late to shift how you show up, how you treat people, how you treat yourself, your healing. It is never too late to start that process. Sometimes that means just getting our ego out of the way, letting shame down, which I know can be hard, especially if there's trauma there, and leaning into vulnerability. And will it be painful? Yes. Will it be uncomfortable? Yes. Does it suck? Yes. But it's also one of the most beautiful things and one of the most beneficial things that we can do, or I wouldn't be talking about this in the first place. Okay, a couple more things that I had wrote down is vulnerability helps us to regulate our emotions by expressing things that are uncomfortable. Me and my partner, I feel like I'm talking a lot about myself. I'm doing this as an example. I want you to be thinking about you, but I think that this is all that I know, and so that's of course what I'm going to, but I want you to insert in your consciousness how this lands for you. On Saturday, this last Saturday, we got into our first kind of head-butting experience. And it sucked. I hated it so much. Arguing with the people that you love is just, it's never fun because we're a team. And when you feel like you're hurting and pushing away the person that you love the most, it just hurts the heart so heavily. But in this moment, I truly believe that So what I wrote down helps to regulate our emotions by expressing things that are uncomfortable. After we kind of had our butting head experience and we calmed down and we both leaned into expressing how we were feeling, it allowed us to just regulate our emotions a step further. It's hard to regulate your emotions when you're holding in all that energy. Oftentimes when we feel that anger, we feel that, confrontation happening, it's because we have all this energy going on inside. And I know for me that day, I was definitely in a hyperarousal state, which I'm going to be doing an episode on Thursday about how to regulate ourselves when we're in that hyperarousal state, because it's one of the most frustrating headspaces to be in. It just takes over our body, it takes over our nervous system, and sometimes it can be hard to lean into vulnerability. But by expressing how we're feeling, it does help us to regulate our emotions. And the only way to express how we're feeling is to lean into vulnerability. And that can really just allow your partner then to have the capacity to support you. Because if you're not able to express what you're feeling, what you're needing, that person's going to be like, well, what do I do? They try to figure it out. Oftentimes it's not the right thing. And then it leads into an argument that wasn't the start of the previous conflict that you were feeling. It just leads to the spiral of things. I know what that's like. Oh my gosh, that was the theme of my past. Just like one thing led to another, led to another. It's almost like I used to love arguing. It used to be fun. It didn't. But the amount that it was present, you would think that I liked it. And the thing that was missing is expressing the things that are uncomfortable to help regulate myself. The last thing that I had wrote down is that it allows you, I wrote down a couple things. What is the most important thing I want to share? Reiterating off of what I just shared, oftentimes when we get into those situations, we can internalize the situations as being our fault. When we don't know where something comes from, for our partner, we can hold that blame on ourselves and take full accountability. Vulnerability allows us to express to our partner, hey, when these things trigger me, I want you to know that that's not your stuff. That is my stuff. And if I ever project that onto you, that is my responsibility to take accountability for and to correct. And I think that that's just a beautiful thing, because oftentimes when we just project our past emotions and feelings onto our present, that's not fair to that person. And so vulnerability allows us to have that capacity to take ownership for what is my stuff, what is your stuff, how are we going to work through this together? Inevitably, when we come into a new relationship or you're in your relationship, there's past stuff that your partner is not aware of. It is your responsibility as an individual to get to know those things so you can express them accordingly to your partner so you guys can work together. Okay? So some last things that I wrote down. If you've never really been in a relationship where vulnerability is present, or maybe your relationship now it's not really present, here's what I encourage you to do. I encourage you to take it slow, because vulnerability can often lead to us being triggered and overwhelmed. And so taking it slow and being gentle on yourself, being honest. Being honest is like the secret formula of vulnerability. Because being honest, especially about our emotions and where things come from, can often bring up a lot of pain, which again, that leaves your partner the opportunity to support you. I don't know about you, but as a girlfriend, when my partner expresses things to me and I have the opportunity to be there for him, that feels really good as a partner. That's kind of our responsibility in a relationship, is to be there for our person. And so when they allow you and open that door and say, hey, come in, I need support, it just allows you to tighten that bond and to be there for them and to strengthen the relationship. And so the only way that we can do that is by being honest. Try your best to express and communicate your needs. When you're feeling something, when something triggered you, when something bothered you. For example, on Saturday, I said, hey, when you did this, it made me feel this way. That's not putting the blame on that person. That's saying that's what initially caused my trigger. Now it's my responsibility to notice my emotions, regulate them, but I'm expressing to you where this came from. that can then lead into just having a conversation versus an argument. I want you to then be able to model vulnerability in return. We can't just express or expect this to just be one-sided. This has to come from both parties, both people in the relationship. One huge thing that me and my partner have done that I truly believe have made so much of a difference is we ask very intentional, open-ended questions. We ask questions with the mindset and with the intentionality of hearing their response. I think by asking open-ended questions about people's past, about why they are the way they are, what caused that, like where did that come from for you, it helps us to just process for ourselves and be able to communicate that with our partner. When we keep things surface level, it's really hard for us to A, connect the dots, but B, be able to express that to our person. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I think that this is just very near and dear to my heart because I know what it's like for vulnerability to not be present at all in relationships, and to now be in a relationship where vulnerability is welcomed with open arms and with so much love. And if anything, it just brings us closer each and every time we get to have a conversation and lean into that. And so I want you to know that this can improve in your life. I know it's scary. I know it can be overwhelming. I know it can be uncomfortable. But I also know that once you feel it and you feel safe and you have your first conversation where you can just go, oh, well, I feel better now. It's just one of the most beautiful things. And so thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. Happiest of Tuesdays. I cannot believe we are in the last week of October. It is blowing my mind how quickly time is going. So I encourage you to just take a moment for yourself, acknowledge how you're feeling. If it's the beginning of your day, I hope you have an incredible day. If it's towards the end of your day when you're listening to this, I hope you had a great day and you have a wonderful evening. And I so look forward to chatting with you all on Thursday. Bye, you guys.